Are you an information security professional and confused about how to build effective controls for your organization? Let's take a deep dive real quick. Maybe you're working on a remote access project. Remote. Now, we have every control inside of the NIST 853 framework that we should consider on our technical project. We're going to talk about access control, remote access, session termination, audit and record review, system component inventory, and additionally these control groups, identification and authentication, device identification and authentication, and media access. We need to consider all of that for one remote connection. Now, one other thing that I want you to understand before we go is that these short numbers here are the primary control, but because we're building a system, systems have components. So this is the first level of the component, and over here we have the second level of the components that are required. So for configuration settings, we have almost 30 other configurations and components that exist in our information security system. But what if we wanted to know the status of the controls that we've selected? We can come over here, right? And we can go ahead and select all of these controls. A lot of tools that you've used are probably not this friendly, right? There's very poorly integrated components out there that are difficult, but let's go ahead and start our project management on this control framework, right? We're going to get started by a couple clicks. We're going to select those controls and we're going to move these to our selected project. Now, I've updated over 40 items. I have not sent one email yet. We're also going to go ahead and change the priority to this for all of them to medium. This is what we're working on. So when we're building our remote access and what we're going to consider, right? We're going to consider all of that. We could share our files if we had something to update pertaining to each of those. This is great for evidence, historical documents, put them in the files. We can define our requirements. We're going to build our estimate, our design, our implementation. We're going to go ahead and update all of our project timelines, right? What is today? Today is May 4th, so we're going to come in to May 4th. We're going to go May 4th through the 18th. That's what we're working on. This is what we're going to do. It's updated across everybody. Now, who's going to be responsible? Who's responsible for this team? What team are you on, right? Maybe you're a compliance professional. So let's see if we have a compliance team. What if you're a knowledge manager, right? The knowledge manager is going to be responsible for this. But let's go ahead and find you as a technician, right? Systems admin. We'll start with systems admin. That'd be good. Systems administrator is going to be responsible for all of these controls. Now, we just assigned a workload, right, by leveraging identity access management. All of them are updated, and we can go to the board and see who's responsible. Now, what team members are going to be assigned? I'm going to assign myself. Now, we're distributing workloads. We're going to have a huge project. This is a massive undertaking that you're not going to finish in a day, but you could finish it in a couple weeks with the appropriate working groups. We're going to define our maintenance. We're going to define our review date. Now, let's just go ahead and update this. We're going to review it on the 18th. We're going to do our item ID. Do we need an exception? Let's put discovery. We got to ask the right questions to the right teams because when we implement a control, it doesn't always apply to the whole organization. We're going to be able to define who our exceptions are for, what cybersecurity framework group is impacted by the exception that we're doing. We could define the exception duration. And the most important thing that we need to know is how impactful is this control to the process? All you're doing is building a system. So your system should have a wire diagram that goes with it. And if you don't have a wire diagram, you should get started. And this is the first way to get started. So who's going to be responsible to do this work? We'll talk about that. Who's going to be accountable? It's going to be different for each of these controls and where they lie across the security framework. Who are we going to consult? You know what? We are going to consult our systems architecture team. They're going to be the people who really know about this. We're going to consult our knowledge management. We're going to consult our strategic planning and policy, our cybersecurity management. And we're going to inform a couple other people. We're going to inform our knowledge managers, right? Now, the great thing is when we use this tool, we're going to have another board that lets us sort by the teams and their roles and responsibilities. So you're going to have better contextual awareness about your security controls. This is the only security control framework that has continuous improvement and continuous deployment. It's the only one that does. Do we have visibility? We don't know. So what we're going to do is we're going to come here and we're going to say discovery. Really important. How do we have visibility? Can we put a sensor to monitor this work? What level of alerting and how important is alerting to it? Right? We're not going to define that yet. We're going to go into detection, telemetry, signals, components, spans, metrics, right? We're going to get into the nitty gritty later, right? And ultimately, we're going to come in here and be able to generate a report about the work that we're doing, the teams that are responsible, and if there's any blockers. We don't need a Scrum manager, right? This works for a very lean and technical team that wants to get things done effectively. Maybe your CTO doesn't want a big lag on developing what they're doing next. Maybe your CISO wants some information about what's going on. So how are we going to do that? First, we're going to look at our Kanban board, right? We've now selected 56 controls. We've got 2 failed, 14 validated, 7 inconclusive, and 1,100 more that we could choose from. Really important here because these are the components that you need to build your business. These are the components you need to consider when deploying software as a service, because if you haven't seen, cyber attacks are very prevalent. Because misconfigurations exist across the technical stack, because organizations are unable to talk about a technical control, if it will be effective, and if it could be compromised. What does that compromise look like, and what's the impact of the process? But here we could share all sorts of important information. We see what's selected, but let's go to our dashboard. What does our quarter look like? What's our year look like? What have we done historically? And what are we going to do in the future? And we can start to talk about that here. Right? We can see our expenses. We can look at our progress. And we see here what's been selected. We're working on this in May. And we could see historically what's happened. Right? We see that from October through May, there wasn't any work. And we can also come in here and we could change this. And instead of saying who's responsible, right? Where do we have exceptions across the organization? Where do we have who's accountable for what work? Okay, who's going to be consulted for what work? The cybersecurity management team has a lot of things that they're going to be consulted about. Who's going to be informed when the work is completed? Oh, right here. All right. What about other components, right? What is the priority and status? Oh, we have the priority and label by status. So this is how we can effectively talk about cybersecurity management, risk management, project management, team workloads. If we wanted to understand more, if we wanted contextual awareness about this control, who's working on it, and the roles, rules, responsibilities, and the scopes of the teams that are working for them, so we effectively manage identity access management, we could come in here, we could choose that. We could define, we have a description. We have discussion questions, so you can parse this into your meeting notes. Even if your team members aren't fully aware of it, you have that contextual knowledge that will help the team understand. You could start to set your meetings by having these discussion questions. And look, we have 16 plus related controls, our evidence, again, our status priority, the selected check mark. We have our estimate. We see who's responsible, who the exception is for, the duration. Again, we've built our RACI chart. We have our alerting, detection, telemetry, signals, components. And over here, we can generate a report to the teams that need to know. Now, on the back side of this, there is a listserv that manages the communication delivery when you click a generate report. And it uses identity access management to deliver the appropriate scoped information and report to the appropriate team based on the contextual awareness that you're trying to convey for the project that you're working on. If you want to learn how to have effective project management in your information technology projects, you've come to the right place. I'll see you again.